Everybody's Rob from National Fire Radio. Great podcast coming up tonight. We have Blake from Next Rung, who's going to be here. He's going to be talking to us not just about suicide prevention, but mental health awareness, which I think is a huge thing. I know Jeremy and I have discussed this in the car a couple times on our long road trips, and it's something that you've wondered about, right? I mean, you're a little curious.
I have, and it's fun. This is kind of a new direction for us, introducing the podcast, and it was so great. We sat down with Blake tonight, and man, you want to talk about a guy that is out there hustling. He and his partner, Charlie, on Next Rung are doing good things for the fire service. Mental health, physical health. You and I, we've had a lot of conversations about this, and I think what's interesting is that you and I come from kind of two different camps.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you have some experience in just your past with critical incident stress debriefings and more mental health, where I come from the other end of like, I just suck it up and go on with my day. And I think tonight's podcast, for everybody that's listening and everybody that's going to check this out tonight, I found myself being quiet and sitting back and listening because this is a topic that I'm not overly familiar with. And so I really like to listen. And what Blake and you, Rob, brought tonight on the podcast was fantastic. So I'm excited to get this content out there. It's really different than most of the podcasts we've done before.
Yeah, it is. And especially because we went down, like I said, it wasn't just a one topic thing. It was all these other things that kind of bring everything in. So great podcast tonight. Next Rung. Blake in the studio. Check it out.
Yeah, guys, give it a listen. And it's about an hour and a half long, and it's definitely worth the listen. And thank you. Thanks for checking in and following us and listening to these incredible guests that we get to have in the studio. So thanks for following. Jeremy and Rob, enjoy the podcast, guys.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, we always want to talk about the sponsors that hook us up, and tonight is on the podcast is no different. And tonight I want to talk about Taylor's Tins. Taylor, you're a rock star, brother. If you don't know who Taylor is by now, pay attention to social media. This guy is pushing it out on Instagram and Facebook, and he's doing incredible things. Stop burning up your leather. Taylor is making aluminum tin helmet shields, and he's killing it. Totally custom. Everything from classic to traditional, the LA style, indie, Boston, Metro, the Detroit, and the list goes on and on. Any style shield you want, he's doing it. He's cutting it out of aluminum and making it happen. A couple things about his tins, and I just want to hit on it real quick. Deconning, right? Leather absorbs, right? Decon on his aluminum, you wipe and go. It's non-porous material, quick cleanup. Think about it. If you're a fire instructor and you're doing multiple burns a week, get rid of the leather shield and go with an aluminum front. You can wipe it down. It doesn't shrink. It doesn't dry out. It's a home run. Locker tags and his T-chains, not keychains, T-chains, even though they are keychains. He's cute that way. But Taylor's doing incredible things, and he's a huge supporter of National Fire Radio from day one. All of our guests on the podcast get a Taylor's tin, and we put their name on it, and I'm proud to hand those out. And Taylor has been supporting us from day one, and we support him right back. So if you're not familiar with who he is, go check him out. Taylor's Tins on Instagram and on Facebook. He's got his own website as well, but hit him up on Facebook. Believe it or not, he does most of his business over Facebook Messenger, and from start to finish, he can get you a tin in under a week. This guy is doing incredible things, but he's getting busier and busier. So if you're interested, reach out to him. Get in touch with Taylor on Facebook. He'll design completely customizable, 100%, whatever logo, name, design you want. He's the man for the job. Taylor's Tins on Instagram and on Facebook. Give him a look. Taylor, you the man. Thanks for all the support at National Fire Radio. Everybody listening to our podcast, check him out, man. He's a home run.
That was good.
I want to buy another one.
We are blessed at National Fire Radio to have the best sponsors in the market. First in Emergency Products, Ryan Dodd and company here. These guys are rock stars, and let's talk about them real quick. First in Emergency Products, they're on Instagram and Facebook, and you can find them there, and we'll hit their handles out there and so on. But these guys have supported us from day one as well, and now we are fortunate enough that the National Fire Radio studios are located in First in Emergency Products headquarters here in New Jersey. Ryan Dodd, the operator of the company here, is a dear friend, and he gave us space here so that we can grow and put out the content that we're doing. And I can't thank him enough and the company. Larry Cohan, these are all guys that they're rock stars. They support us 110%. And they've been a sponsor of ours from day one. And so we want to talk about their product, and we want to talk about the upfitting and the custom cabinetry and consoles they build for command vehicles, chiefs vehicles, police vehicles, EMS, OEM, you name it. These guys are a custom upfitter who makes custom cabinetry and consoles.
I think one of the cool things about it too is when you told me the studio was going to be here, I kind of like rolled my eyes a little bit. But when I got here to see and come into this shop and see the dedication and the work that these guys do and the customization, it's not just some shop that's pumping out vehicles as fast as they can.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, there's some pride and ownership in what they do, and you can see it when the employees.
There's no cookie cutter. This is 100% custom shop. People come in here from the fire chief on down, and they get to design the command vehicles they want. They do vehicles for the West Coast, for the East Coast, and everything in between. They have some cabinets. I just saw them. They have some cabinets going to the West Coast in California that have tri-fold flat screens that come out, fold up, and flip down with like a sun glare visor on them. They're incredible. It's over the top, but they're only limited by your imagination. Different parts of the country, as we know, operate differently. And so you can design your command vehicle for accountability, for firefighting, for rescue, you name it, they do it. Totally customizable. And I think what's super cool is today they have this new product called the Gear Safe, which is a containment system for your chief vehicles, command vehicles, and so on, right? Fire vehicles, squads, you name it, utilities, and so on. But I think what's cool about it, Rob, and we were talking about it before, is that especially in the volunteer sector, a lot of chiefs have the ability to have their families. They're driving these cars 24 hours a day in their local community. And when you're putting your family, not just putting yourself at harm, but when you're putting your family and your children in that vehicle with you to respond at a moment's notice, but you have contaminated gear in the back, that causes alarm. That causes some concern. And so the initiative of the clean cab concept, this is right in line with that. This is the ability to contain your dirty gear after the fire, to get back to the firehouse so you can do proper decon. Their Gear Safe is an absolute home run, and I suggest you all check it out. First in Emergency Products. They're on Instagram and Facebook. Ryan and Larry are doing great things here. They have an incredible staff, and I can't thank them enough for having National Fire Radio under the roof in their building. And big things are to come for them and for us. And so a lot more to come on First and Emergency Products. Thanks for checking them out. Go to their social, give them a like, tell them we sent you over there. They're good friends, stand-up firefighters in the business, and they support National Fire Radio 110%. Guys, check out the podcast. Thanks for checking us out. Have a good night. Enjoy. Hey, guys. Jeremy with National Fire Radio, as always. Rob in the studio tonight.
What's up?
Blake Stinnett.
That's it. What's going on, guys?
Next Rung. So here we are in the studio. Blake is from Georgia, and we're going to get into his whole backstory. And if you're not familiar with who Next Rung is, you need to become familiar with them. They are a nonprofit doing incredible things for the fire service, for mental health and physical health for our first responders. And Blake, thanks for joining us tonight, brother. So awesome to have you.
Man, a pleasure to be here, man. It's exciting. It's been a good weekend. I got here Saturday, and, man, it's just been a lot of fun. So it's a great way to kind of end off my time up here. And, man, we're grateful to be here for sure.
New Jersey.
So, yeah.
Like, who would have thought, right?
Yeah,
Like, have you been doing okay with everybody talking fast? Like, did you have to have that slow down?
I'm good, man.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been
what are
great.
you saying?
Huh?
What are you saying? They're a little slower in the South? Rob, we have a lot of people that
messed up,
follow
man.
us in the
No,
South.
when I went down south, they used to give me a coffee mug that said "Speed up so I can understand you." So
Fantastic. That's good. But I will say this, right? Like, we have crossed paths. We just saw each other a couple weeks ago out at FDIC.
Yeah.
I think what's super cool, and maybe a good way to start off this whole conversation, is the fact that, National Fire Radio being a year in, how long have you guys been running with Next Rung now?
So it's been around 2 years, but we've been a nonprofit for almost a year and a half now.
Awesome. And you are really social driven.
We
correct?
are very social driven, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
and that's where our paths crossed, and that's
Right.
how we ended up being here tonight, and that's
Right.
where we know each other. And I think that's important to say. We hit a lot of different platforms between all the social media and our YouTube and so on, but I think it's really cool and interesting that the fire service is really starting to change. There's a change. Things are happening, right? There's platforms like ours and Next Rung and a lot of other Instagram and Facebook-minded platforms that are really starting to gain following, and I think it's because it's where the attention is, and we talk about that a lot. But we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Instagram.
That's true. Very true.
And
I mean, yeah.
Right? And like, if you think about those relationships, and then you've been out here since what, Saturday?
Saturday, yeah.
Saturday. So, and we're filming tonight. This is Monday night. So you've been here 3 days.
Yep.
In New Jersey, and everybody you've come into and run across is an Instagram page.
Definitely, yeah.
I think New Jersey is really on the cusp of doing some really good stuff.
Dude, you guys got a special, I mean, this up here that I've told you, there's something in the water. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, don't tell your secret, whatever it is, because you got a lot of great things going up here, man.
I think one of the interesting things is that when I came down, when Jeremy first approached me about National Fire Radio and everything, it was like, all right, I'm going to go to Jersey. I'm going to learn a lot about it. And I was talking to my wife about it the other night, and I was like, yeah, and there's a lot of good stuff coming out of Jersey. Like, this is pretty awesome. And like going over this podcast and different things that come out. And she's like, you're not from New Jersey. You're from New York. I'm like, I know, but it's like, I have ownership
Close
now.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, just work with me here. And, but
that's
yeah,
funny.
it's kind of neat.
But I think it is neat. And I think all of it is just, it works really well when you get people trying to put across a good message and doing the right thing, being 100% authentic, no BS, right? I mean, you end up with a very good product. And I think where the attention is going in the fire service, we're always getting away from the traditional means. And I'm not saying that that's the greatest thing in the world, but I also think that the new means of communication are important because we're hitting the younger generations. And that's where the attention is. So, Blake, maybe we could just dive right in, man. Next Rung. Like, I'd love to know more about you guys. I did my follow-up and read up on you guys and through conversation with you and Charlie. We should mention Charlie, who was supposed to be here.
Charlie couldn't
Brown.
make it. His flight got canceled Saturday, or Sunday, rather, early Sunday. The weather instrument was messed up. They delayed him for 5 hours, couldn't fix it, and then they just canceled the whole flight. Didn't even try to give him another one.
Imagine it.
They're like, sorry,
It's
guys,
like,
you're
and
out.
At least he was home. He didn't get stuck somewhere
True.
for an extra 26 hours. So, I mean,
But Sioux Falls, South Dakota was fantastic, Rob. That's
Greg.
another conversation.
no.
Yeah, at least you got to go right back home. So.
Well, let's talk about Next Rung. Like, let's talk about what you guys are doing, how this started, how this all came about, man. Give me the background. I'm sure everybody would love to hear it.
Yeah, so I guess my background is I volunteered for 3 years before I became career. There's kind of a space in there, so I volunteered from 2010 to 2013, and 2015 is when I got hired on full-time with a big county. Had to become a paramedic and a firefighter, so I got both of those, which is a lot of fun. I don't know that I would have gone and got my paramedic on my own, but I'll take the knowledge and the things that go with it. Anyway, I ended up leaving that department. I work for a city department now, which is a lot of fun. I love the city landscape and things like that, so I've always really had an interest in that and do the tech rescue side of things. So ropes, swift water, extrication, all that stuff. So right up my alley, man. I love that adrenaline side of things and the specialty side. So, man, I love the fire service. I grew up around it. My dad was a volunteer for, my whole growing up, and so I ran around the firehouse, open air cabs, things like that. So, yeah, man. So the fire tradition runs deep. And anyway, man, I guess, where Next Rung comes into all this is I always wanted to make a difference in, I guess the community in which we serve and things like that. But really, I wanted to make a difference and make an impact in people like us, firefighters, first responders as a whole, and, serve the people that we serve right next to you every single day. So, in 2017 is when we started Next Rung. Originally, I started Next Rung to be an apparel company. We were just going to sell apparel and things like that. Right. And about 6 months into it, I mean, things were going well, but I wanted to be able to donate back to an organization, someone that we could give money to and support and things like that. But I couldn't find anyone that I wanted to give back to that was, I guess, addressing the factor of, mental health and things of those aspects. So I brought Charlie Brown on board. We talked about him, our co-director. And anyway, so I kind of threw out the idea. I was like, hey, man, this is what we're doing now, but here's kind of where I would like to move. And he was on board. So we started filling out all the paperwork to become a nonprofit and a 501c3. So we're tax deductible and, always hand out receipts and things like that
I get
for people, when they give back. Because, I mean, the things that we do and the topic that we approach and things like that is not necessarily the most exciting topic, I guess. I mean, it's starting to gain more ground, but it's not like, I love this topic. Let's talk about it all the time. So, anyway, but we wanted to address it and make it, something that becomes more normal, I guess, across the fire service.
Well, And I, just on the topics that we're talking about, specifically mental health, like it's very difficult to have these conversations. And apart from National Fire Radio, I'm a firearms instructor. And every time that I'm in a class with people, because when I'm very real, I'm not like sitting there being like, it's all, roses, sunshine, and popcorn in a box. I tell people, I'm like, listen, there's things that can happen in your life, and you may need to reach out for help, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I tell every one of my students, I'm a suicide survivor. So, like, as I said, you may have some kind of preconceived notions about what'll happen if you ask for help. And I'm here instructing your class, telling you that the help is out there. You need to ask for it or let somebody know, and we'll get you what we need to help you out. And it's so important to say that.
Yeah.
And I just use it in that one realm that I'm involved with, but it's important for the fire service that we have that same conversation with
You're
people.
exactly right, man.
I think the biggest thing is the fact that there's greater awareness. What you guys are doing and some other organizations or groups or individuals, we're really starting to give firefighters, first responders, but we'll hit on firefighters because that's what we are.
Right.
The awareness of how serious of an issue this is in the fire service. Like, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I am not well versed in any of this. Rob and I have had some very deep discussions about this, just in our long car rides from doing departmental visits and things like that. Like, you and I've talked about this stuff at length. And for me, I'm one of those guys that, like, I just swallow it and I go home.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, but that's how I was raised, and that's what I know. And, fortunately, I don't think I've ever had any struggles that really has brought me down any tough road traveled yet. Potential is there, right? I mean, you never know. But I think the importance, though, is the fact of the awareness, right? We need to educate, and education's huge, right? Maybe you guys should, maybe you and Char, maybe you could hit on like what you and Charlie are doing, some education stuff, how we're getting the message out there.
Definitely, yeah. So, and I think you're right. I mean, everyone handles it differently, obviously. So,
absolutely.
I mean, and that's the thing is everyone doesn't handle it the same way. So some people may need more help, or some people are like, nah, man, they just let it roll off their back. But I mean, regardless of how people handle it, we just want to offer and provide a resource that's there in case. It's not saying that you do need it, but in case you do need it, we're here. And so that's kind of what we do. So just to finish up the story on how things got started, one of the reasons that I started this is 6 months into my rookie year. One of the guys that came up and taught in our rookie school a lot, he actually killed himself. So that was, to me, I mean, he was a great guy, just someone always smiling, laughing, cutting up, I mean, someone that when you look at him, you're like, dude, there's no way that he's struggling with anything. And like I said, man, he ended up taking his own life, left behind his wife and two girls. Wow. And so that really made a huge impact to me. And we weren't best friends, but we did work together. I did, know this guy, and it just really started to make me think like, man, this is an issue. And, 2 years down the road in 2017, suicide started outnumbering line of duty deaths. And that's just what's reported, So the thing is with line of duty deaths, everything's reported because it has to be. Suicides don't have to be. And the fact that it's already outnumbering, I mean, there's probably, from what they've done from research, probably about 40 to 50% actually go unrecognized. So the number that you see is probably almost twice as much. So that really impacted me, and I have an undergrad in psychology. I've always been interested in, talking with people and the counseling aspect of things. So,
and you have a faith-based background too, right?
I do, yeah. So actually, I started in ministry. So I did that for 8 years. I worked with kids and families and youth and things like that. So I was a youth pastor and did that for a while. And really, I'd always wanted to be in the fire service, but when I was trying to get on 2010, man, it was super competitive. Yeah. I couldn't get on, so I, kind of let it rest for about 5 years, and that's when I got hired on in 2015. So
real quick, like when you I want you to kind of break down being in the ministry, because I think that sometimes, at least in the Northeast, from my experiences with my own friends, like people think ministry, they think church. Like I always identify as a recovering Catholic, but like, and it's really like it sucks because I've met so many people over the years that have had a great experience with religion or organized religion, and I mean, like I said, I'm a recovering Catholic. So
Yeah, no, you're right, man. I feel like that's kind of the standard. You know, the further north you get, you know, being from the South, I mean, we're kind of the Bible Belt. Obviously, you know, I mean, to me, you know, my faith is a huge part of me. I don't like to shove that down people's throat. You'll never hear me, you know, beat people with the Bible or quote scripture at people, but it is a big part of who I am, and you know, it's a big part of how I get through a lot of my stuff, you know. So yeah, but I was in ministry for 8 years. I worked at a non-denominational church. I worked at a Baptist church, and people are like, "Oh, Baptist, you know, like hellfire and brimstone." No, it's not that way. I mean, it just depends on what church you go to, obviously. But you know, through that time, like I had my times where I had to counsel people, to talk with them through issues that they're going through with, you know, their family or their children or things like that, you know, their students, you know, and if you have kids, you know that, man, they can be crazy and off the chain, and sometimes you need help, you know, trying to kind of, you know, guide them through things. So anyway, so, you know, I have that experience as far as going through and talking with people. I actually have a master's in theological studies. So, you know, and now I'm in the fire service, and
but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, to me, like, I'm just sitting here thinking about this, and myself, I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
And just a quick thing on religion for myself is that my wife is Christian, not Christian Reformed Christian, Dutch Christian.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and my two stepkids, my older kids, went through a Christian school. My kids go to my two kids go to public school, but my two stepkids, who have been mine forever, they went to a Christian school, and they were all blonde hair, blue eyed Dutch kids. And it was, you know, so I'm very familiar with that. And I'm familiar with, you know, we go to church, not as often as we should be, but we do. And my kids go to youth group and so on. And that's an important part of our lives too.
Yeah.
And I think sitting here listening to this, it kind of makes sense to me. Like, I find we have some relatives that are in the ministry, and so on, in different, I'm just going to say dialects, but different sections of the ministry, and different faith-based ministries and so on. And so, like, I'm surrounded by these people at family parties and things, and I think about their demeanor. I think about how they're more reserved, and they tend to listen more.
Yeah.
And I sit here and I listen to that, and when I did a little background on you, obviously we try to do that with all of our guests, and understanding that you have a faith-based background, it really clicked with me to say, like, that makes sense. It makes sense because you're there to listen. You're there to help. You're there to, you know, having a master's in theological studies. Like, I mean, it puts you in that mindset, you know, and I think that's hugely important. And I think that's absolutely necessary to talk about for you and who you are, because it makes you who you are.
It does. I mean, that it kind of built who I am, and it built, you know, my reason and my why behind what we do. You know, like, I'm naturally, like, I love serving. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter if I'm, you know, putting chairs out, or if I'm, you know, talking with people, hanging out and things like that, but I love to serve naturally. So the fire service has always been an interest of mine. So, you know, naturally, like, I wanted to gravitate towards that.
Right.
And it was to serve the community, yes, and to fight fires, because everyone loves going in a freaking burning building.
No doubt.
You know, I mean, it's awesome. But to also make an impact in the people who are serving the community, and the community somehow tends to forget about them in that aspect. You know, we're forgotten about. We're there for them, but who's there for us? And we have to be here for us.
Listen, man, we roll in, we take care of what we got to do, and we go home. And then, you know, like, everybody sees us performing, but nobody sees the after.
Correct.
When we never taught self-care. And I think that, and that's one thing I'm sure you guys are hitting on, but, like, we never tell people, like, hey, you can take a day off, you know, like, take care of yourself, like, process what happened. Because I really think a lot of times we experience some of the most intimate, life-changing moments when we're called for service.
Right.
And one, it's not normal. And so we should be able to take a day, if we need it, to kind of, like, put things into perspective.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that's a big part of it. I mean, yes, we are firefighters, but we don't just run into burning buildings. I mean, think about the traffic accidents that you run, you know, things like that. I mean, but so there's just a variety of different things that continue just to overshadow you as you go through this career. You see things that most normal people will never see in their life, except for maybe something on a movie or something like that. Well, that's the stuff that we see in real life, you know, and it does. I mean, it will weigh on you. You just have to have your way of how do you decompress, you know, what does that look like? And, you know, for me, man, like one of my favorite ways is, you know, we talk about the mental health aspect of things, but physical, you know, being physically healthy, you know, working out, stuff like that, a huge stress reliever. So we believe that the two intertwine so much together. You know, if you're physically healthy, then typically your mentality is a little bit healthier. You know, you're feeling better about yourself and so on. But if you're mentally healthy, you want to be better physically. You want to serve the people. You want to do the job well and things like that. So,
I think mental health and physical health go hand in hand.
Definitely.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
If you're feeling
100%.
good, you're sharper. You're
Right.
feeling good. You're good about yourself. You're good about you projecting your image and so on. I get that. It makes sense.
Yeah, and so we got to share that platform yesterday. We did a seminar with a couple of different people, but Pip from 555 was there, man. Awesome
Absolutely.
guy. I mean, I love listening to him speak and things like that.
He's going to be in here May 31st.
Yeah,
and not only that, but I got a little challenge going with him that's starting May 1st.
That's
so
awesome, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
I don't know how awesome it is, but we'll see how that goes. But
We'll live through it.
yeah.
So I mean, so all those things are together, man, and so you know,
But it's awareness.
It is. It's awareness. It's just continuing to raise that awareness about the things that we need to be aware of ourselves, you know. And sometimes it takes each other to say, "Hey, man, like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about just, you know, talking to someone? Have you know, whatever it may be, you know, we have to be there to encourage each other through that stuff. So the more awareness that we can raise, the more minds start to think about, you know, that aspect of, hey, man, maybe we just sit down and talk about it. Hey, I know that was a crappy call. It's not impacting me the way that it might be impacting you guys. But, hey, you know, I just want to let you know if you want to talk about it, I'm here for you. Simple conversation.
So let me ask you from just a meathead fireman, right? That's me. I mean, that's what I am, right? Like, how do we have that conversation? I mean, I know when we have critical incident stress debriefings, we have fatal accidents or calls that are more traumatic than others, we come back and we address it. We do. As a department, we address it.
Right.
If it's to the level of debriefing, like a critical, you know, maybe not just a company thing where you get back and a couple guys sit around and just talk about what they did for the last couple minutes and kind of just debrief about it, and you kind of feel everybody out. I get that. And I get on the larger end when we have you know, something a little more serious where we might need to have a debriefing with a formalized team. I get that. But how do I let that guard down to have that conversation? And I know that sounds like archaic.
No,
but
I think
that's reality,
But
right?
there's a lot of people
Like,
in that understanding. Like, how do I do that?
Absolutely.
Like, I need to know, you know?
Right.
And so you mentioned like the CISM stuff, like, and that's kind of like a department wide, or, you know, whatever it may be. Like, you hit a large incident that's, I mean, you know, it was a bad incident. Sure, they're going to bring in a debriefing team, but if you think about it, debriefing teams come in, they talk to you as a whole. It's not individualized. So a lot of times with a CISM team or, you know, anything like that, they kind of come in like, you know, let's talk about it. You know, we know what you saw was bad, blah, 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 blah. You know, if you need anything, let us know. But a lot of times there's lack in follow-up. And so that's where it comes in for, you know, the company officer or the senior man saying, hey, you know, that was a rough thing, you know. And like I said, it may not impact you the way that it impacts someone else.
Absolutely.
But here's what we all know. We know if that was a sucky call or not. Like, hey, man, that was a really crappy call. Like, I can tell just because of whatever, there's fatalities or whatever it may have been. Sure, man, it rolls off your back and you're good. But maybe it doesn't roll off your
Rob, you can probably hit on it too. I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
I just know
I
Rob has parts.
So like I work with a Hudson Valley Critical Incident Stress Debriefing team up in New York, and you hit on a great point with like the teams come in, they say like they have kind of like a canned, you know, I don't want to say a lecture, but it's almost like a canned thing of what they do, and depending what model they follow.
Yeah, I have CISM training, so I know. I get it.
And I think that like it's because it's always like for me, after working with the team for a couple of years now, it's always been, I don't want to say neat. Like I'm very honored always to be invited into any place that needs us. But it's to hear some of the stories from some of the other. I'm trying to think of how to say this correctly, and I just probably won't. So I'll deal with it. But like, there's a lot of teams out there that don't know what they're doing, and they cause more harm than good. And I've seen some who have like pushed forward a mental health, like they have psychiatrists and therapists, and it's like, this is not peer based.
Right.
And then they're looking at it and they're like, oh,
explain that.
Jeremy,
Can you explain, like, can you guys talk about that a little bit more? Because I think that's important.
Like I said, I don't know the team that, like, I assume it's actually pretty similar because we're talking the same language, but the whole thing that makes a critical incident stress debriefing team work, at least in our area, is that we're peer-based. So it's other first responders. So it's not like the lady who has a job at EAP and this is her first time, and I'm going to say, like, hey, this is what we're doing, and, you know, like, and this is what we do. And then all of a sudden they have to check out because, like, they're not prepared for what it is that trauma that we went through. They can't handle it. So now we've all sat around in a circle and we're talking about this, and the person who's here to help us has just run out. And having a peer-based team is good because I know, like, if you came to talk to me about a fire that didn't go right, I know Jeremy Donch. I know his reputation, and he's one of us. Mm-hmm. And that's what peer-based support is all about.
Okay.
Yeah, and so and that's what we provide, you know. So you're talking about, you know, what do we provide, and we're touching on the peer support. So we actually provide peer support, and you get a first responder on the line, and so the number goes to my phone, it goes to Charlie's phone. We have another guy, it goes to his phone. That's on our board of directors because we're a nonprofit. We have a board,
sure.
And so, you know, we're continuing to grow that team. We're going to add 2 more people to that team so that we can continue just to answer the volume.
So you guys have a hotline.
We do. So you know, you can call it a hotline, whatever you want, but yeah,
right.
I mean, people can call or they can text it. It's 1-833 Next Rung, NXTRUNG. You know, so it's pretty simple to remember, hopefully, for people. But, you know, they can call or text that number at any time. I'm not going to say if it's, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning that I'm going to answer, but Charlie's on the West Coast, so his time zone's different, which helps, man, like being East Coast, West Coast. So if we got people late at night that need something, Charlie's awake. If it's earlier in the morning on our side, I'm awake typically, you know, so but, you know, we have a number that people can call. It's completely anonymous to the fact that it's not getting back to their department. It's not getting out to their crew if they don't want their crew to know. You know, so we want to, you know, provide that formality of saying, hey, you know, if you call us, it stays anonymous. We're not going to tell anybody. It's not going to get back to, you know, the people that you don't feel comfortable, you know, it getting back to. Because people sometimes don't want to be questioned or they don't want to be looked at, you know, in a certain light because of, you know, I'm struggling with this. So, you know, that's one of the things that we provide that, you know, as peer support, not being a part of a department or an organization that serves your department that people can reach out to.
Right.
You know, so we, you know, I love that aspect of it because we've had a lot of people, you know, come and use our service because of that. But even on top of that, you know, if peer support isn't enough for what they need and they need a licensed counselor, that's one of the things that we do also is we get them lined up with a counselor in their area. We'll find someone for them. So across the U.S., you know, so we're not just based in one state or anything like that. We will find someone in Arizona or New Mexico or Colorado, wherever it may be. You know, we've had several that we line up with a licensed counselor. If their insurance doesn't cover it, then we will pay for a cycle of, you know, of sessions with a counselor for them. So whether that's 6 sessions or 10, we'll normally talk with the counselor up front and say, hey, you know, what is a cycle like for you? You know, typically we do, you know, 6 sessions. So we'll pay for those up front. They don't have to worry about it. It's all paid for. They just go and they show up and they meet with them. And then lastly, one of the ways that we give back is we actually donate back to families who lost their firefighter to suicide.
Wow.
So we send a check to that family. We send a care package with our shirts and a keychain and a challenge coin and a letter just letting them know, hey, we're sorry for what's happened. And while we didn't know your husband or while we didn't know, you know, your spouse or whatever it may be, they were still a part of the brotherhood. We care about you. We care about your family.
Right.
You know, even if you need something as a spouse, if you need something, or as a girlfriend, you know, that lost her boyfriend because he killed himself. If you need something, if you need counseling, we'll get you lined up with someone. So that's one of the things that we do. We obviously want to look out for the first responders, but man, your family's important as well, you know, so we're there for those people as well. So, you know, the whole peer support, you know, is our first line of defense, but, you know, if they need licensed counseling as well, then we'll provide that as well.
Well, and the nice thing to hear about that is suicide has been around for a very long time, right? It's not a secret to anybody.
No, not at all.
And there were some really bad things that have been said about suicide, and there's a stigma that gets attached to it. And it wasn't until somebody pointed it out to me that they put it, I think the person took their own life by, like, whatever the medical term is for lighting themselves on fire. And they said how much pain was that person in to end their life in that manner. And when I started looking at it, because I was always told, well, this is a selfish decision. You're solving a temporary problem with a permanent solution, and you should be, think better. And I was like, but I'm in pain, and these people are in pain, and if we don't get to them, because we can't save them all, there are people left behind, and to know that we're acknowledging the pain that person went through, and the pain that family is going through, I think that's huge.
Right.
I mean, Jeremy would say it's a home run, but it really is, because to have that outreach to go to somebody and say listen, because there's a lot of places where that's not happening.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's all about perception and changing that perception to
But how
understand that.
How do we change that perception? How do we allow for us to become softer in the firehouse?
It's not about being soft.
No. But where I'm going, and listen, I'm not versed in this. You guys are. This is so understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I'm looking at myself, and I'm portrayed as one of the, maybe one of the guys that's, a little tougher than nails in the firehouse, and people lean on me all the time, right, for different things and advice and so on. For me, it's, that you have that perception of who you are and what you are. And then you come across something like this where, for me, I mean, this is totally out of my realm, man. I'm sitting here with you two right now, and I'm kind of sweating a little bit, going man, I don't, and this is part of the issue. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to address the wrong product. I don't, it's an uncomfortable conversation for people that aren't versed in it. And it's kind of like what I'm getting at, right?
Well, I think the good thing is if you say the wrong thing, Blake and I will probably jump in and be like, I wouldn't say it that way.
I get it.
Because that's one of the problems.
But you're not going to be there. You're not going to be there a week from now.
Sure.
When I have a brother say to me hey, Jay, man, been having this or that or whatever the signs and symptoms are, which I think are important to talk about too. But I'm just saying, we talk about awareness and we talk about how to recognize and help one another, but we have to be able, one, to be able to recognize, but two, we have to understand how to at least initiate the beginning steps of help.
Yeah.
But it's as simple as saying, hey, brother, you all right?
Yeah, I get that, but you have to admit that in the fire service, a lot of guys have their guard up.
They do.
And a lot of guys are going to say, yeah, I'm fine. What are you talking about? Fine. What do you mean? And I'm like, well, you look like you're a little shaken or, and you can do that. You can prod a little bit, right? Poke a little bit, but
you can also generalize too. It doesn't have to be specifically if you have someone struggling or in your mind, you're thinking this dude looks like he's struggling right now. You can just address it as a whole, and say,
so
yeah. So you don't have to, you just address your whole crew, or even if you're not struggling with it or whatever it may be. Like I said, if you start addressing the issue as a whole and making it known, maybe you don't know how to do that, or someone comes to you hey man, I'm struggling, but listen man, I don't know necessarily what to tell you, but I know someone that does. We know who Next Rung is. Here's their number. Shoot them a text or give them a call, whatever it may be, until we continue to inform the fire service more. Dude, we have so many years to go back and try and undo because it hasn't been talked about for forever.
That's my point.
So
that's exactly
this
where
is
I'm
a
coming
new
from,
thing.
right?
I mean, obviously, we know in the fire service that we are reactive, man. There's hardly anything that we are proactive about. So now we're trying to go back and fix an issue that's been an underlying thing for so many years. I mean, I look at my dad. He was a volunteer firefighter for my whole growing up. I mean, dude, they didn't talk about it. I mean, that wasn't something that was normal. They just, like you said, swallow it and they move on.
That's kind of how I was raised.
Exactly.
I think the older guys
Yeah.
were raised that way.
Right.
Like your dad says, brush it off, kid. Like,
Yeah, you're exactly right.
And another thing to kind of for us to understand too is that this has been happening, but we also lost in the last 20, 30 years our methods of communication. And I don't want to blame it on a generational issue because it's not a generational issue, but there's certain times where we have to make sure, just like we say, we're where the attention is. We need to make sure we're looking at where the attention is and kind of pay attention to that angle of our people who are out there. So if we know that somebody's at, because every department's got the social media overshare.
I get it. Sure.
And if all of a sudden they're off base and they're not you're posting something political and they're always the first one to chime in hey, this is it's outside the norm for them. That's something that we should kind of be paying attention to. And as far as the conversation and starting that conversation, I think that like I don't want to share my back pocket skills because then my crew's going to be like, we're on to you, Lieutenant. But no, like it's as simple as like, I think sometimes is having that conversation. And even like I find recognition is not recognizing that like, hey, they're doing this, this, and this, but recognition of an event. And I give an example, like we had a cardiac arrest with a 30-year-old and like the guy threw a clot. That's, it was completely, it's just like it was his time.
Yeah.
Nothing we could do. And we worked it, and we got him back a couple of times by shocking him and worked the whole thing. Got down to the hospital. The reception at the hospital wasn't the best. They kind of like were like, oh, this guy's, what's his deal? Is he doing? And I'm like, no, this is not anything to do with that. And like we came back, and everybody's kind of bummed out. And I was just like, listen, guys, this was a tough call. Like, and I want us all to recognize that, and I want everybody that's in the room right now to understand it didn't work out how we wanted it. But that person was surrounded by a group of people who unconditionally loved him. So just on that, like, good job to all of you for doing what you did. Yeah. Because that guy wasn't alone, and his family now knows that he was surrounded by people that loved him. And instantaneously, the conversation started. Yeah. And that's
good.
How,
yeah.
And that's like sometimes like the recognition like that is just to simply say like and even to like for me, like I'll say like this one was rough for me. Yeah. And I've been doing this for a year and a day. And it's just that's enough to get the conversation going. And you don't have to be like a backroom psychologist or right. A backroom therapist. You just have to let the conversation happen. And I think sometimes like it's active listening. Like, yeah, you know what? You're right. That wasn't like a cool thing. Like it was kind of weird that these things happen. I'm like, yeah, I hear that you're saying that. Like it was a little weird. The reception at the hospital was the way it was. Or yeah, I was really confused by this. And right. And it all comes down to that active listening. And I think that really, because I look at it this way, and this is kind of where I've been with myself is that when I don't understand my thoughts and I'm struggling through something, it's chaos in my mind, and I can't make sense of chaos. But the moment that I say, hey, you know what? It bothers me that Charlie Brown's not here today.
Yeah.
Once I say that, now it's organized and I own it and I can move on. And that's kind of how like I want to talk to people and approach them. I mean, Blake, this is your show.
I get what you're saying too, man. I mean, it is hard. I mean, it's hard. Like, where do you start? Because it's not just this, snap and make everything, or make everyone in the fire service aware of the mental health aspect, or that I should share my feelings or whatever it may be, So, I mean, it's not going to just happen like that. I mean, it's going to take time. It's going to be, something over the next, several decades that continues to take place. It's just talking about it more and more. Just the same thing with training and how we advance in the fire service. It just slowly gets integrated. And that's how this is going to be. I mean, it's not an instantaneous thing. It's still something that's on the rise, and it's not, taken off in an extreme way yet. I mean, so it's still very new. While it's not new, it's starting to become more and more talked about. It's still very small in the scale of things that are talked about compared to the rest of the things that we have in the fire service. So I get what you're saying. I mean, it's not just something that, everyone's going to start talking about automatically because of this podcast or because someone says anything or whatever it may be. It's going to take years. And so, our hope is that we're still around in several years from now, that we're continuing to, help people through that and help people understand that. And that's part of our goal as well, is to, create a curriculum that we can, teach as peer support, where we can come in and enlighten people about it and say, hey, this is what we're here for. And even too, man, and I don't know what it is, but there's definitely something different about, I'm 30, so there's something different about my generation, the ones coming after me and things like that. And there's, I guess, pardon me for saying this, there's some sort of disconnect, and I don't know where that disconnect came from. But, from, where my dad was or people that are 10 years older than me to the people that we see now, there's some sort of disconnect, even more so. I don't know what that is. I'm sure I could drive myself crazy trying to figure that out, but there's something different, man. I mean, I think we can recognize that, and that's okay.
I think that, like, I look back to at least when I was bought in, I was very blessed. I had my mother was involved in the team, and then I had this rock star of a instructor, Pete Volkman, and he's actually a police chief up in Chatham, and he does like a whole Good Chatham Cares for You thing with getting heroin patients and whatnot into rehabs, and it's very successful. But he was very good at making sure. I'm trying to think how to put it. He was very good at making sure people understood that aspect of talking, and that things happen in firehouses successfully because we've always talked around a kitchen table. And he said that like post-traumatic stress debriefing teams were not started by, any doctors or people with degrees. They were started by senior firefighters with cups of coffee around the table. And he's like, and when you think about what we do in debriefings, that's exactly what we do, except we just don't have a large enough coffee table sometimes to get everybody around. So we sit in a circle and, but like that's kind of what it is. It's that we sit around and I think we've done it. And I think you've done it and you don't even realize you've done it.
No, I know. I know.
But
there is that conversation to have, because with all the people that follow and listen to us and watch our stuff and listen to our stuff, there are the old school traditionalist firefighters that we don't put our feelings out there. We don't engage somebody else with the fear that we might hit on our own feelings. I'm like that.
Well, I think
I have a hard time, truthfully, it's been easier since I've had children, because I have 4 kids, and my youngest is 11, and it goes up from there, 3 girls, 1 boy. So you want to talk about feelings and so on, I'm in touch with it.
Right,
I get it. And I've become much more in tune to listening, and I think my demeanor has come around a little bit more, where I'm a little bit softer, right? Maybe the edges aren't as sharp anymore, and but I'm still in favor of my daughters and my son falling down and getting hurt. I'm still in favor of them.
Yeah.
It's okay to ride your bike without your helmet for no, you're not every time, but you're a kid. You're meant to get hurt. You're meant to learn from your mistakes. We can't pad, right? And I think in the fire service, and I can speak to this because I feel this way, and I'm sure if I feel this way, there's a million other guys that feel this way. We put up walls to protect ourselves from letting our feelings out, so that other guys don't see us as weak or inferior. And I know that's completely wrong. I get it. But that's how a lot of us feel.
Yeah.
And so this is my point of all this, right? Where I'm going with this is that's why awareness is so important. And I think what you guys are doing is you're in an avenue of approach that is current and of today, where people can reach out through current means to ask questions, but we have to entice them and educate them the importance of reaching out.
Sure.
And, I might not be the guy. I mean, I like to think that if somebody's in need, man, I'm there for them in a heartbeat,
right,
and so on. But again, it might be my own. I might not even recognize my own sign and symptoms. You know what I mean? I might be struggling with something, but I'm a traditionalist. I'm one of those hardcore guys. There's a lot of stories of guys that have 25 plus years in a job, hardcore, tough as nails firemen. They're an alcoholic.
Right.
They hit their wife. They beat their kids. They disappear and go to the casino for 3 weeks at a clip.
Yeah, they're decompressing somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've been hitting on suicide, and that obviously that's a huge part of mental health.
No, but
I kind of wanted to bring it
just right there with it, man.
So I wanted to bring it around that way too.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about I know for a fact that I don't cope the best, and I have some vices, if I need to let go every once in a while, but it's not destructive by any means, or abusive, or addictive, if you will. But a lot of guys.
But
do.
there is that issue. I mean, naturally in
Yeah.
the fire service, I mean, we see people drink themselves to death.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's one of the things. They go home, they hit the bottle because they aren't sure what else to do. But that at some point became normal. Oh, he's having another beer.
You're
That's
right.
not a big deal. He's having another, glass of Jack, or whatever it may be, whiskey, something. I mean, it just became a normal thing. I mean, if you think about the fire service, other than coffee, one of the things that we centralize ourselves around is drinking and things like that. I mean, that's been, a mentality that, and I'm not saying that drinking is wrong by any means, but
we're making it, we're jesting.
Yeah. So
you're absolutely, Blake,
but
you're
it
absolutely
is, man.
right.
I mean, so there's some way that you're gonna decompress, or some sort of something that you're gonna do to help yourself feel better. But I mean, I don't think there's a magic answer.
No.
I mean, that's the hard thing is there's not just a across the board answer that can fix it all.
Right.
But you mentioned that maybe you're not good with it, but here's the thing. You have a crew that's made up of several different people with different personalities. You can find someone on your crew or in your house or in your department that's good at that stuff and
love
say,
it, brother.
hey, let's run with it,
That's
So,
huge.
it doesn't have to be you. Like, if that's not your gift, that's great. Maybe your gift is training. Maybe your gift is whatever it may be in the fire
plumber,
service. Yeah.
the electrician.
Everyone's got
right.
specialties
That's
that
right.
serves in the fire service. I mean, we're the jack of all trades, right? We're supposed to be there to be able to do anything.
That's
and
a
there's
fantastic.
so
I
many,
didn't even think of that, Blake. That's a fantastic
there's so many
point.
things that
Yeah.
we're great at, man. I mean, most of us, if we aren't at the firehouse, we're doing something else, other than just jacking our jaws. But we have things that we're good at. So let those people run with it, and don't be scared of that. Some people are scared to let go of that. And not necessarily people that are, outside the office, but, your higher ups and things like that. Those are the people that we have to impact, and get to those people. And, one of the things that I've seen personally, from the department that I started at is it's not just the people that are in the service now, it's the people that are retired for 3, 4, 5 years.
Absolutely.
Who are now struggling because, when we're in the midst of it, we don't think about it near as much because we're always busy. But these guys that have been retired for 3 or 4 or 5 years, man, where I started at Gwinnett County, there's a battalion chief that was retired for 5 years. Man, he ended his life because he couldn't handle all the pressure, all the calls that were coming back that were surfacing,
And-
that he had run on. And now, what do I do with this? So we can't just, be here for our current guys, but being here for the guys that are here, from the beginning, the guys that are retired. So
I think that it's a thing I've watched a couple retirees go through. You okay?
Yeah. Seb, we're good? All right. Keep
All right.
going, Rob.
But
No, don't worry about it.
and this was one of the things that I kind of got bought into. Like, there's some back pocket, we call them back pocket skills, but like, you're having a normal reaction to an abnormal situation was always one of the things that I've been told. And
sure.
that at the end of people's retirement, like, if like, and you say like, I don't have these feelings, or like the people that are tough as nails, like, you're storing that someplace. So at the end of retirement or in retirement, like, when your body kind of figures out that you're not in combat anymore, that you're not going to work,
Yeah, yep.
that drawer comes open and it's time to clean a house with the files.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's super important to let anybody who's retiring or walking out the door to know, like, hey, you are always, one, welcome back in this firehouse, and two, like, my phone's always on. Like, my senior man, he still comes back and checks in with me, and like, he's not hitting any of these things here that we're talking about, but like, just the fact that he's coming through the firehouse
Connection. Yeah.
is huge, because I watch other people leave fire stations and they don't come back, or the guys forget about them. And like you said, we have to know that at the end of that career, eventually we're going to start cleaning house.
Yeah.
And everything's going to, like, we're going to start reviewing the files.
Right.
And I know all of us have some pretty good files to review.
Oh, without a
you
doubt.
know?
Definitely,
Without a
man.
doubt.
So
We all have stories to tell. That's one
Yeah.
of my favorite things about the fire service and going other places, is listening to what other people have to say. I mean, you can learn so much from it, and so just being open, I think. I think one of the good things that we're at in the fire service is busting each other's balls, and
Without a
doing
doubt.
stuff. I mean, that's what we do.
All
I mean,
part of it.
round table
Yeah.
talk, stuff like that,
Right.
dude. Like, is huge. It's incredible. And we can be hard on each other too. Like, but sometimes we just got to be willing to ask the hard questions. Like, hey, is that a hard call for you? Like, are you struggling with that? It's just being, willing to step up and say, hey, man, like, I'm going to ask a hard question. Like, is anybody else struggling with that call, or anyone else, do this or do that? Or is there anything that you guys need to talk about? And I mean, I think, from us, it starts with changing the fire service now. And those are the people that are entering into the fire service, the rookies that are coming out and things like that. If we make it normal to them, it's going to change the fire service. It's going to take several years because, God knows that it's hard to take an old firefighter to make him change his ways.
So let's hit on that, because I don't write a lot of notes when we're doing podcasts. I kind of try to store it in my head and then I forget it anyway. But I actually made a note on this, and it says, is the department on board? Meaning, for me, and my question to you, and you hit on it before, is when we educate, we're talking about the company officer talking to his guys and debriefing. But has Next Rung, you and Charlie, have you guys been able to get through to departments? And I'm talking department on a upper echelon from the chief of the department on down, where departments are starting, or do you know of any departments, not that you have to name them, but departments that are starting to address mental health as much as we address physical health?
Right. Like I told you, the fire service is reactive.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of what you see, the ones that are changing are the ones that have been affected personally.
Right.
Maybe they've kind of started into it and, they're kind of, piddling with it. Maybe this is a good idea. We should try and get something started. But then something happens and then it's all hands on deck because, holy hell, what do we do now? We don't know how to operate through this and how do we maneuver through this. So typically some of the things that you're seeing is from a reactive standpoint because they had someone in their department take their life, or they had a neighboring department, someone take their life, so they're starting to think about that.
Listen, man, a lot of what happens in the fire service is reactionary based upon something that happens, right?
Exactly.
We have a fatality.
We learn best that
we
way.
have a fatality in the outlying district. Next thing you know, a year later, you get a firehouse that pops up out there because it was never addressed before. Things like that.
Think about all the big training things that you go through, the Denver drill, all these different
absolutely.
things is from someone's death.
But I think you hit on something, and this is what brought it full circle for me, is, educating departments is one, and if they're not willing to listen or they're not there yet, I get that, right? It takes time, and you said that. But I also think that, we talk about this newer generation of firefighters, and they're more open-minded to all of it.
Right.
Whereas the guys of 25 years plus are kind of closed-minded to, I deal with that on my own terms, and we don't need to talk about that, right? I think it's important to talk about it maybe in the academy. That
Definitely.
Like when you're bringing in your rookie classes or your pro B classes,
that's
that
something I would love to do, man.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, like, if you can get a department on board to understand the need for this, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that we need to educate our own because all we're doing is preserving our own, right? We're trying to better, because here's the deal. If you have somebody that's struggling mentally on the fire ground or in the firehouse, they're not performing.
Oh, it's dangerous, man.
Absolutely. It's dangerous for themselves. It's dangerous for the crew. It's dangerous for the department and the public, right?
Could even be dangerous for their family.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Right. All the way around, right? So you have to think that, departments, and I got to think like bigger departments, they have to be signing on to this.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
They have to understand the need for it, and so on. But, I think it's important, and I think it starts at the beginning. If we can get, departments to understand the importance of taking care of our own, physical health 25 years ago was a cigarette and a cup of coffee, and these guys kept going back out on the rig, right?
Yeah, mustache,
and now, 25 speaking of mustaches, what the hell happened?
Bro, I was in the mirror, after I got out of the shower with the razor in the hand. I was like, should I do it? And
you had one hell of a stash going.
I made a choice, man. I don't know if it was the right choice, but
it can always come back.
That's right. It grows back, but yeah.
But where I was going with this was a cigarette and a cup of coffee,
right,
and a greasy burger was the firehouse norm. 25 years later, it's now physical fitness, how well these guys can perform based upon how well they can do their duties based upon how well they're in shape.
And that transitional time was
25 years. I get it.
Yeah. So, and so we're at the beginning of this, really in the past 2 years, you've seen it hit big.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I hear all the time, and I agree to an extent is, hey, you signed up for this job, right? You hear that all the time. Like,
but it's
you
true.
signed up for this
it's
job.
True.
You knew what was going to happen. And, I think back to it, and I knew that I was going to run those calls. But until you're a part of it and you experience it, you don't know how it's going to impact you personally. How am I going to deal with that call? Yeah, I know I'm going to run that call, but how is that going to impact me? And I think about, one of the most recent ones for me was back in Thanksgiving, man. And, just being transparent about the call it was a crappy call. It was two kids, 12 years old. They lost their hamster. They got into the garage. They went into the garage to find it. A car left the roadway, hit the garage, hit the van that was inside the garage, threw one under it. He broke everything from his waist down. The other kid got pinned against the wall, man. And just because of the nature of the injuries that he sustained, didn't make it.
Wow.
But I've never seen a scene like that, dude. I've never seen so much blood. And, we helped the one kid, got him off into the ambulance, and then I started working on the other one, man. We worked him to the hospital, and we worked him, and we worked him, and we worked him. But because of what had happened, they couldn't fly him. We rode him into the hospital, and things like that. And then, just some of the details of the call, man, it pisses you off because of what's going on. And,
Right.
So to me, like, that's one of the calls most recently that sticks out to me. And, like, I'd never experienced that, and personally, like, for me and the way that I deal with things, normally for 4 or 5 days, dude, I'm pissed off or I'm angry or whatever it may be, but I'm processing. Like, I make myself walk back through that call and say, hey, no matter what was going on at the call, even if you had a doctor on scene, you had an OR, team, ready to go, would it have changed anything?
Right.
And I think back to those things for myself, and no, it wouldn't have changed it because the nature of everything that had gone on, dude, it was just a crappy incident, like a freak accident. So, there was nothing different that could have been done that could have changed that. And typically, but I make myself walk back through that. And I know how I need to process a call to get past it. And so after that, I just try to detach my emotion from it. But I let that story be something that I can share with other people. And I let that call drive me, because there's so many times, man, where we get so fed up with having to go out to another call, this person is a normal, or we're going to check a fire alarm or whatever it may be, and we get pissed off, right? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. And you're like, oh, I got to wake up again. But allow those calls to drive me to say, you know what? I couldn't help this person because of the nature of the call, but this person I'm going to right now, I can help them. Like, they don't have anything that's, life-threatening right now, and I can help and be nice and all these things. So, that's typically how I deal with it. I just allow those calls to drive me to become better at my job and hopefully not gripe as much, because we like to gripe. There's no secret about that. But.
Yeah, and something that's just dawning on me as we're talking about this, and we brought up, are we educating departments from the top down, but also, how does your department, you're a paramedic. Outside of being a firefighter, you're a paramedic,
right?
And you worked on those poor children that just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong set of circumstances. And there's nothing, you could do everything in your power, and sometimes the situation doesn't work out.
Right.
How does your department prepare you for that? They don't. They prepare you to perform your skills.
Correct.
They prepare you to put a tourniquet, run a IV, start oxygen. I'm not an EMT by any means, or
You're doing good, though. I'm really proud of you.
Like,
close, man.
Yeah.
You can be a good one. Honorary.
Not even close, man. But here's the thing. They teach you and prepare you for battle.
Yeah.
But like the military, are they teaching PTSD? Are they teaching you how to cope? Are they teaching you how to deal with the other part of it?
Not yet. No.
Not yet, but it's coming. And
Well, that's what we're talking about.
And I think the other thing is it's all about, like, obviously for me, like, I'm talking to the guys that come in, and I'm like, hey, like, listen, this is the deal. Like, this is the stuff that's out there, and here are the resources that we know are available to us, and these are the people that we trust. And, like, we had a guy come in, and his name was Jeff Dill, and from Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance, and he was like, hey, you need to vet these
Jeff's
people.
A great guy.
Yeah, and he was like, so we went out and did that, and then, like, from the working with the critical incident stress debriefing team and stuff, like, it's just that, like, making sure people know, like, and I think you kind of hit on it before, like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like those back pocket skills of being like, listen, can you look in the mirror and say that you did everything to the best of your ability with the situation you had, with all the resources you had? And if the answer is yes, then, like, it's not going to be easy, but, like, you've done your part. You've served on this call. And then I always go back to that, like, no matter how bad it was,
No, I get
those
that.
people were surrounded. And it's important for us to kind of reinforce that with our younger people.
But kind of where I'm going with this, too, is that if we're not preparing our rookie class and our probate classes from the get-go, that this is part of it, right? This is the aftermath, right? This younger generation, and I hate, not millennial, none of that. But what I do know, and just through personal experience between my own children and guys at the firehouse, is this younger generation does very well when you give them the specifics of how to do it.
Right.
If you expect X, Y, and Z out of them, if you tell them that up front, they're going to do it. And they're going to work their ass off, do it well, right?
Yeah.
Because you told them how to do it and what's expected of them.
Right.
there's no gray anymore, and I think maybe that's part of the struggle of the fire service that we talk about.
How do you maneuver through the gray? You know?
Right, and so now, like I know, like my 20s, God, Michael's 26, Kendra's 23, right? My two older guys, they need to be specifically told what you expect and what you want done, and they'll do it to the best of their ability, and they crush it.
Mm-hmm.
But when there's a little bit of gray in there, myself, I was raised to figure that out with common sense and understand of how to do that. But there's that disconnect now,
There is, man.
I think.
There is a big one.
So what happens is that we're not preparing, we're not teaching, we're not educating this younger generation that after you have that child fatality, how do you deal with it? If they're not being told at least how to recognize signs and symptoms or how to deal with it from an official standpoint, they're at a loss.
Yeah.
I think so.
And I want to jump in right there.
Yeah,
You talked
please.
about one of our goals, man. Like, and I've sat down and talked about this with Charlie and our board is if we can make it into fire academies, into departments where they're training a rookie class and teach that to them, like that's where it starts, man. Like if they know, hey, yeah, you're going to see crappy stuff, and here's some things that you might feel afterward, and that's completely normal. Like don't turn that off, you know. Like those are the things that we have to go in and talk about. You know, I think that's extremely important because, like you said, when we're being trained, we go through these checkoffs, we do it over and over and over and over again so that we learn it. Well, if we come in and we talk about this, and we have a whole section on the mental health aspect of the fire service and things like that. I mean, dude, that would be a huge home run because now they're being exposed to it, and now they're knowing that, hey, it's coming down from the top, that, hey, this is something that you can expect.
And it's okay.
When this happens, you may feel this way, and that's okay. If you feel that way, open up and talk to somebody. Go to, someone that's on your crew. Go to your officer, whoever it may be. And the more and more that we raise the awareness, is putting it in front of people, right? Because they may not be aware of it, and that's what raising awareness is. It's putting it in front of people, allowing them to hear about it, and jogging their mind about, okay, maybe this is an issue.
Yeah.
Maybe what he's saying is valid. Maybe we've seen this, but now that someone brings it to our attention again, maybe we should address this, throughout our department and throughout our rookie schools or whatever it may be.
One thing I think too is really important for us to kind of like hit on is that we talk about, I think a lot of stuff gets generalized. Like people say, oh, PTSD, or like you have a critical incident stress debriefing team coming in because this is a critical incident,
Right.
or we're, like suicide is the one that, because like that ends someone's life.
Right.
But like, do we ever talk about anxiety? Do we ever talk about and educate towards like depression or hypervigilance? Like Rick George talked about, like he did something on hypervigilance once, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like this
Let me tell you something real quick. Just that I don't mean to cut you off, but that dude, unbelievable stories.
Yeah.
Like if you this is just directed at our listeners. If you're not familiar with who he is, please look him up and listen to some of the podcasts he's been on and some of the content that he puts out.
Oh yeah.
And that is in your face, and that's coming from a guy that's, like he'll arm wrestle a bear. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, at least that's how he comes off. And I don't know him. I've never met him, but just listening to some of the content that he's put out.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Incredible.
Yeah, he's a rock star in his own right,
Without a doubt.
And to address that, we put that specifically in the things that we talk about. Hey, this is what your mental health is impacted by: the depression, anxiety, sleep deprivation, suicidal ideation, substance abuse, marital issues, dude. I can tell you right now that we've probably half of the people that we've dealt with is because of marital issues. Dude, that weighs heavy on people, so they're going into work, and when they're at work, they're worrying about their home life, and, so that's a huge factor as well. So, we put all those things into the things that we address and that we will talk to people about, so just to answer your question, that's one of the things that we throw out there. Hey, if you're struggling with any of these things, let us know. We'll be happy to walk with you through this, and we're grateful that people trust us with their stories, and we walk with them through that time, man. And we've been able to do that. People on the ledge of suicide because of things that are going on in life. Hopefully, and our goal is to help step them back from that ledge, turn around the other way and walk through this. It's a storm. but it is temporary. We just got to be able to make it through, whatever that temporary may be, whether that's, a few weeks or a few months or a year. I don't know. But, I mean, our goal is just to walk them through that time and, through the end of that. And as we, kind of end our time with them, we don't ever completely disconnect. But, our goal is just to lead them through that time and allow them to see, you know what, I can do this. I can make it through this stuff. So
I think, too, with just like another thing I wanted to kind of touch on and maybe you can kind of shed some light on it is understanding triggers for people, because I don't think that, like when Jeremy was talking before about not our lack of education for our rookie firefighters and people that are coming in is a trigger. And I know for myself, like it took me a month and a half to figure out that I should drive another way into work and stop driving past 112 Fairview Avenue. And I couldn't figure out why I would walk into work upset and angry. And it was because subconsciously I was driving by the scene of this fatal house fire in Fairview. And like finally one day, like it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, wait a second, I'm going right past this thing and I'm reliving it every time I drive by it. And so like, I mean, have you done like education and stuff like that or awareness and raise that? Like, and do you have any like thoughts for yourself or?
No, I think you're right, man. And I don't, you guys know Fully Involved, Mark Van Oppen. He wrote an article on that. And it's a great article, man, about, passing by that scene. I passed by the scene of the one I talked about in November of last year. I pass by it all the time when we're running calls, So, I mean, it does. Like, you can't help but think about it, and there are triggers. And a lot of times you don't know what those triggers are until it happens. You don't know why am I starting to feel this way again? That was a year ago or that was a few months ago or whatever it may be. But there are triggers that we have. And it's just, I guess experiencing that trigger to figure out, all right, this is, how can I prevent this or how can I,
I think recognition too, because that's one thing, like you sometimes don't get to control the trigger.
Right.
The trigger is going to come at you, but it's also like, cause, and for me, like I've always found triggers are something that reminds me of a trauma that I've experienced in the past. And usually I know it's happening is because all of a sudden I'll feel really anxious. Yeah. And it's like, I've just had like 7 pots of coffee. And I'm like, all right, let's go. Yeah. And I'm irritable, and I'm like, all of a sudden, like, I'll knock into this cup, and I'll be like, screw that cup, it's son of a, and I'll be like, that's like, for me, that's not gonna be everybody. No, but it's kind of recognizing, and that in our career, we're gonna see things that are not nice, but like we may have this trigger come up further down the line, and it's just kind of that recognition of that, because it's all, I think the mental health stuff gets lost because we don't talk about hypervigilance. We don't talk about anxiety. We don't talk about depression. We don't talk about sleep deprivation.
And that's a big one right there, man. Sleep deprivation. Yeah. I mean, it triggers so many different things that maybe we don't even know that we're dealing with, Mm-hmm. I mean, the lack of sleep. I mean, I get so irritable and angry. I mean, it's bad if I don't get enough sleep. And it takes a while to get there sometimes, maybe it's several days without, sleep or just getting a few hours and things like that. But the things start to come out. I mean, me personally, like if I have a lack of sleep or, angry, things like that, I get really nitpicky. Like I just pick out like, hey man, why is that like that? Or go home, I've been away from the wife and the kids for a day and like they do something. I'm like, why are you doing that? Just stuff like that. I mean,
I didn't realize that until I got some training on it, that sleep deprivation, like if you have, and I forget what the exact numbers are, but let's just say you don't get a night of sleep and you're driving, like now you got to take the family on vacation. Yeah. You're impaired driving. It's the same thing as if you kick back a couple drinks and now you're like, hey family, let's go on that vacation. Dad's done with work.
Right.
And it's like, and
we've all done it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I think to relate it back to the fire service, and all this together, if we see an issue on the fire ground, if we don't address it, man, that's stupid on our part. Correct. If we see an issue that's going on and we know that it, that decision made a bad call and it screwed up the scene or it screwed up, whatever operation was going on. It's the same thing for us. Like if we see something going on and we see that, this is a bad choice or whatever it may be, if we don't address it, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to continue to be screwed up until we address the issue that's going on, and so I think that's where it comes in, as your crew and things like that, or the people that you work around, or listening to your family members, because a lot of times they recognize you being different, so they're like, hey, there's something different. Like they may not understand, right? Because they don't live that job. They don't work the job that you work, or they don't run the calls that you run, but I made a post about that the other day. Listen to the people around you. They know when you're different. and don't be offended if they tell you, man. Like, just, sorry, just man up, man up and don't be offended by someone saying, hey, I think there's something a little bit different about you, man. I'm not trying to bust your balls or anything, but I've noticed that there's some difference in you. And look at that, how maybe I am different. Trust the people around you because, guys, we care about each other. Hopefully your crew loves you and they want to see you do well and be successful and things like that. So
I'm sitting here. I haven't said much, and I'm
I'm getting real nervous. I'm like, what's going on, Jeremy?
No. Like there's a reason for that, right? As much as I talk, I listen, and so I might talk a lot or be out front speaking a lot, but at the end of the day, I listen. And like tonight is amazing to have Blake here, and I wish Charlie was here because we would have gotten both of them just, really bring just incredible awareness. But we're talking about just incredible things. And I, myself, like I said, I'm like the archaic guy at the table. Like I said that before, a half hour ago in this conversation. I'm the guy that doesn't get it. I don't recognize it. I don't know how to, maybe I do, maybe I don't know. But I'm sitting here listening, Blake, and like, this is awesome. This is absolutely incredible because if I'm feeling this way, I hope that a lot of our listeners are sitting back and really digesting this and listening to it because I never thought of sleep deprivation as part of mental health. I never thought of, a few other things really fall in that realm. And so for me, I'm sitting back listening to this and I'm putting like Rob, you talk about driving past Fairview Avenue. Like I remember the Fairview Avenue fire and I remember how just incredibly over the top that was for you guys that night. And the cards were dealt, man. And it was a tough night. And the fact that you drive past, every single day I drive the engine and we're driving back from somewhere, I'm educating the guys on the engine. We had a fire in that house. This house has this. We do this. We did that. We
ran
had
a fatal here.
I had a fatal here. We did this. Yeah. We do that all the time. I don't recognize that as part of this umbrella of what we're talking about tonight. And there are times where you might get ornery or a little more, sensitive or judgmental. And like I'm sitting here tonight listening to this and I'm like, man, I'm starting to like really start thinking about like my demeanor of just how I envelop people and how I listen and so on. So I'm floored. Like this is fantastic. And I really hope like this is a much more serious podcast than we've ever done. Yeah. I just think this content deserves that, right? It deserves open conversation. And I'd like to think that if anything, we get this message out tonight and we talk about awareness and we can keep going on and on about awareness and we know how important that is. I do want to talk about your Change Lives campaign a little bit. Yeah. You guys are a nonprofit. You do raise money and you look for fundraising to help offset the cost of working with our first responders and their families.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe you can hit on that a little bit. Yeah. So, let's get the message out.
Yeah, man. The Change Lives campaign was actually my wife's idea, man. She's really business minded, always has been. Sure. She's managed different, companies or, different shops, things like that. So she's really business minded. She's like, hey, what do you think about this? And I was like, man, this is perfect. So what the Change Lives campaign is a monthly way to partner with us. And we wanted to make it like not a burden whatsoever on people. So we started at $3 a month and it goes up to $60, so it makes some jumps in there, for businesses and things like that. So this is a way that people can partner monthly. And when they partner with us, we like to commemorate that partnership. So we actually send them a challenge coin. It doesn't go out immediately because, we have over 200, partners right now. And it's been a little over probably about a year and a half since we started it, which is awesome. So, so people get a challenge coin. We send that out to them with a letter explaining where the money goes to. And the money goes directly back to our mission. So all the money that we collect from the Change Lives campaign, it's all set up through PayPal. It goes into a separate account. It's not intertwined into the daily things that we do, our apparel or anything like that. It goes into a savings account, and all that money is used directly to go back to providing financial assistance for licensed counseling when first responders, firefighters come in, or their family members may need it. And then it also goes back to writing a donation check to the family who lost their firefighter or first responder to suicide. So all that money is collected back into one account, and that's where it goes to. And we will also use that to help further our education in the peer support aspect of things so that we can, continue to learn and further ourselves, for the people who are coming in, because we want to give them the best that we can. So where can everybody find this? Yeah, so our website is nextrung.org. And you can go click on the tab. If you're on your phone, there's a little tab at the top right. You can go down, or if you're on the website, it's under the Change Lives campaign. So you can go there and sign up. Again, it starts at $3. It goes to $5 and upward from there to $60. So, this is our monthly way that people can partner with us. Obviously, people can donate one time as well. And a lot of people ask for our challenge coins all the time, and the reason that we do it this way is because when someone has our challenge coin, we want it to mean something.
Absolutely.
Like, hey, I'm making a difference in the lives of the people that I serve around daily. So that's the only way that you can get one of our challenge coins is by partnering with us in this.
And I want to talk about that. But I want to talk
please
about
do.
making the difference, because this is one of the things that, like, for me, like, I'm an emotional guy, and I had to stop and collect myself when I was looking at your Instagram a little bit, was it a week or two ago, and you had people who you helped send photos in of themselves with a Next Rung shirt on and said, "I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys."
Yeah.
Like, how powerful is that to know that you've had?
Bro, you said it, and it gives me chills, man. So, we walk with these people through whatever it is that they're going through, and like I said, man, we're just grateful that people trust us enough, and I tell Charlie a lot, man, like we have to put our faces out there, because when people call in, they know who they're talking to.
Right.
They understand,
Absolutely.
hey, I want to talk to that guy. I can trust him, So the fact that people trust us with their story, but to be able to make it through that, man, with someone who's on the edge, they're calling you, and and there's a matter of time, they're about to make a choice, it's going to go one way or the other, and so thankfully they call us before they make that choice, and I'll be honest, there's probably going to be some point where someone calls us and they still make the choice. We haven't run into that yet, and man, I hope to God that we never have to, but I know the nature of the beast, and I'm sure at some point we can't save everybody, and I know that, but man, the people that we can help and walk through that, and they come out on the other side and they send a picture and say, hey, this is a suicide that didn't happen because of you. Man, like that.
Or a marriage that stayed together,
Yeah,
or I
or
sought
whatever it
alcohol
may be.
counseling,
Yeah.
or
Even something as simple as getting a sleep machine because you found out you had sleep apnea from all
Whatever,
the
yeah.
20 years of being woken up at the middle of the
Right.
night to run down the
No
street.
matter what it is, it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be as big as that. There are times where people just want to come in, they talk with us for a few hours and they're good to go. Regardless of whatever their situation is, they made it through whatever hardship they were going through at that point. Is it over? No, because it's going to be a constant struggle. It's something that you will continue to address throughout your life, but at least you know how to manage that, or you have someone that can help you manage that, But yeah, getting stuff like that, I'm not the only one that gets it. Charlie gets it as well, We're in this together. It's always it's about us, It's not about me, Blake. It's not about Charlie, but it's about Next Rung and what we are, trying to give back to the fire service is where it starts originally. That's where my heart is, and that's where it originates. So we do a lot of fire service. We, EMS kind of gets rolled into that. We haven't really delved into the law enforcement side yet. There's just so much. There's so much in the fire service that we still have that's left untouched. So, but yeah, dude, that makes a huge difference, that's one of the best messages I could ever get in my entire life, and I told, Charlie from day one, if we can help one person, I consider it a success.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've done that, we've done that more than once at this point. So, we've made our difference already, and so anything that we can do from here is just a huge plus. And
I personally, like, even though I'm like we're here and we know each other through this social media channel, but I want to personally thank the people who had the courage to say, like, hey, you helped me and here's
Yeah.
my story, because they're helping destroy the stigma that's out there with this.
Right.
And like, you can do a lot of things in the fire
Yeah.
service, but having that courage to take that step
right.
to not only get the help, but then to come back and be like, here it is.
Yeah.
I'm a survivor
And then
is
and
huge.
then what's really cool is to see the people that we've helped or we've walked through our peer support. They turn around and they sign up for this. Dude, like now they're paying it forward, right? That's
Yeah.
what this is. This is all this is paying it forward, because you never know when the time's going to come that you may need it. Maybe you don't need it right now, or maybe you think you're never going to struggle with this, which is great, man. Like, if anyone could go through life and never struggle with a thing in their life, dude, that'd be incredible. But there are people around you, that are going to struggle with certain things, and to be able to help and pay that forward, dude, I mean, there's nothing greater. I mean, we're in this job that we do, whether you're career or volunteer, because we want to pay it forward. We want to serve the community, and we're servants at heart, man. And this is just another way to serve.
And you're
another
making
way to
a
serve
difference,
the people
brother.
that come in and need our help. So this is huge. And like you said, it's tax deductible. People can write it off on their taxes at the end of the year. We send a letter out, for them to do that. So we don't keep the money, man. I mean, we're not about that. That's not why we're here. Obviously, I mean, we're a nonprofit, you know, so
absolutely.
our goal is to turn all that stuff back and just give back to the fire service.
Well,
so.
and I think if there's people out there that are listening tonight and they're watching this podcast and they're listening to this podcast and they're having that frustration where they don't know maybe how to have the conversation or make those steps to try to be there for somebody, the Change Life campaign is something that they can do to help out. And that, like, if you're sitting there at home thinking, man, how do I help?
Yeah, how do I make a difference?
This is the way to do it.
This is going to help us continue to do what we do. Without donations, we wouldn't survive, So, I mean, we do sell apparel, man. I love putting that stuff out, shirts, hats, and things like that. And one of the things, like today is Monday, we pioneered the idea of Green Monday.
Yeah, so just hit on that.
Yeah,
real quick.
so
absolutely.
Green Monday, I mean, you'll notice every single Monday we make the posts about Green Monday. I mean, I'm wearing a green hoodie,
I'm wearing
a green shirt,
too,
so we
planned.
We did that.
Yep.
Not even.
We
Not
did
even
that
close.
to continue to raise awareness because
Did anybody just hear that bus come through?
Yeah, backing right over you, brother.
threw you under it. Yeah, so I mean, green is the color for mental health awareness.
Right there, brother, on the wall.
Yeah, we got one up here on the wall. It's the color for mental health awareness. It's the month of May, which is coming up. It's just a couple of days away, is the actual month for mental health awareness. So we knew it was a month out of the year, but we wanted to take it to every single week so that we could continue to raise awareness. So that's what Green Monday is for. We sell green shirts, green hats, all the different things. We have some new shirts that we're about to drop for the month of May. We have some really cool stuff that we're going to do with a thing that we call Jump Rope for Mental Health, just, where we can get everyone through Instagram, hopefully, to jump rope and things like that, for kind of that fitness side of things. And we're going to be giving away some jump ropes and stuff like that. So
Please
that
give one to Jeremy.
So that kind of
film
moves
it.
into the...
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it right after you.
Yep.
So that moves into kind of the physical health aspect where we can tie the two things together. But yeah, so I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't really love the color green until I started Next Rung and we started the idea of Green Monday. So, but now I wear it every single Monday and wear it throughout the week and things like that. So yeah, we just wanted to raise awareness every single week for us, man, because we're all that we got,
And
man.
to sum it up, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about
Yeah.
awareness.
So
Not everybody's aware. Not everybody. I sat here tonight and I took in a lot, man. You want to talk about making somebody aware? I got a much better idea of
and that's what it takes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if people were just just willing to sit down and listen, man, like, and here's the thing, we've talked about this before, man. There's incredible organizations out there, incredible companies, pages on social media.
Yeah.
Dude, that they just skyrocket, which is awesome, dude. If there's anything that I love is to see people successful. But I have to remind myself about the topic that we broach is not a popular topic. It's not an exciting, funny, amazing thing, So I understand, like, we're not going to take off like everyone else, but what we do is we continue to address the things. We connect with people like you guys.
But you make a
man.
difference.
Like, dude,
You're making a difference.
Yeah.
In every single content piece you put out and everything you invest back in, whether it's a green sweatshirt or a donation back or paying or helping somebody on the other end of the phone in their time of need, you are giving back to the fire service more than I could ever. And I thank you. But truthfully, like, yeah, we all have our part, but you guys are really in a lane of recognizing the importance of protecting ourselves and taking care of one another. And I think that message, I think you have to be able to sit back and understand that. And it's not easy. Like, I don't take flattery well either. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you guys really are making a difference. And I am so glad. I was going to hit on this when we do the intro to this podcast later on, but I'm so glad that you sent that message busting my chops that one night, right? I remember
I was a little worried though, man.
No, man,
Dude, I'm so sarcastic. Like, that's my love language, I guess, is sarcasm,
I love it. And I'm sure a lot of people listening aren't familiar, but if you follow National Fire Radio, I'm an apparatus nerd and I love doing my apparatus stuff. And so, hey guys, it's Jeremy, National Fire Radio has just become a tagline. I mean, it's just the intro to everything we do. Balake over here thought it'd be fun to get on and bust my
Balake.
chops, right? Yeah. And so he threw one out there, and then he was like, and then he shot me a message. He's like, "You cool with this?" And I'm like, "Brother, I love it." And there's one coming right back at you, man.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, right? Like, we're raising awareness. Like, I was happy to help raise awareness for you. You know, if our interaction back and forth, you know, brings a little more awareness to the situation or the greater good, man, I'm all about it, man. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, dude, this has been great. And you know, and what I want to say is, man, being on your platform and allowing us to spread this message, dude, that's more help than I could ever ask for. You know, we've had that with you, with, you know, being up here as a whole, man. Like, there's so many people that support us, and, you know, we just literally, man, like, I just want to make a difference. So whatever difference I can make, you know, whether that's 100 people or 1,000 people or whatever it may be, man. I don't know what the number is going to total to by the time this is
going to be bigger than that, pal.
You know, but we're grateful for people like you, and we were on Pin the Q yesterday. Things like that, dude, like, huge for us, man, just to share platforms with people who, man, they look up to you guys, obviously, man. They love your content and stuff like that, and to show that we can partner together and to share that, man, more help than I could ever ask for.
Because when you're in it for the right reasons and you're doing it for the greater good, there's no walls. There's no obstacles, man. We do it because we love it, and we're forging friendships and partnerships. And, you know, I think that this is an incredible opportunity. When I heard that you were coming up this way, I was like, brother, I said to Rob and Sebi and the other guys, I said, we gotta get these guys in here, because I think what you're doing is fantastic. And I've said that in a lot of different posts. We support you guys 110%.
We're grateful,
and
man,
to be able to get you here. And I think tonight's podcast was fantastic. We're going to start wrapping up, but, you know, the time goes quick, and we talked about some serious stuff tonight. And it's not often that I'm kind of quiet and sit back and listen, but you and Rob tonight really hit it out of the park. And I just think it was a great night. And I think there was so much said here. And I think if we could take away anything from this, it's the importance of awareness and being willing to lower those walls a little bit and allow people in a little bit. And it's okay to talk.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, because if you're willing to talk, people are going to listen.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to talk about your feelings, that's okay. Just tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then we don't have to talk about any feelings.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
So just kind of taking us out. 1833 Next Rung.
Yep. NXTRUNG. Yeah.
If you need help 24 hours a day,
we're there. I
they're
say
there.
24 hours. We're 7 days a week, man. We're going to get to you as soon as we can.
Yeah.
You know,
If the minute that they wake up, they're going to get resources out to you if you need the help. So hold on. If you have the courage to send that text message or make that call, like, we're coming for you.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be there, man.
And then Change Lives campaign, nextrung.org.
Correct. Yep,
Little as $3. So for anybody who's out there, say they're stopping at Dunkin' or Starbucks, cut back on one cup of coffee, and you're going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And if you need to see where it is, go to Next Rung on Instagram, and you'll see where you're going to make a difference.
It goes, I mean, so being a nonprofit, we have to post everything that we give it to. I mean, it goes there. I mean, you can see the stubs of the checks, things like that. So we want to be open with people. So if they ask, we're going to let them know.
Absolutely.
You know? So, but
Blake,
man,
thanks,
super grateful, man.
I'm sorry
so
Charlie
much.
couldn't make it, man.
I know, man. Bummer.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was absolute pleasure to meet you. And, you know, we are honored to have you here, because what you're doing is good. You're doing good stuff for the fire service. And for myself and Sebi and Rob and Tucker and the rest of the guys, man, thank you. Thanks for keep doing what you're doing. Keep making a difference. And if we at National Fire Radio can help in any way, spread the word, or do more than we are, please tell us, and we'd be more than happy to help you.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And I got a question before we leave.
Shoot.
You guys ever had a pork roll?
Yeah, well, so, okay. So this is.
Here
did they
it
prep
goes.
you on this?
Seb's over there behind the
I got
the
prepped
soundboard,
on
and
this.
He's like, all right.
So
I
this
see
is
him back there.
Who, Rob? Rob started this? All right, so Ridgeway Leather, Rob. Yeah, Rob, you're getting a shout out here, which that's a whole nother story.
Central Jersey doesn't exist anymore.
So, let's just, so there's this magical, there's this magical thing called Taylor ham. Pork roll, it's not a thing. It doesn't exist. Not a thing. If you're from New Jersey,
a pork roll
New
is an
York,
order on a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, it is.
It's not
right.
This tailored ham.
Absolutely. I mean, it's this incredible breakfast meat that you put on your sandwiches or whatever, or accoutrement to eggs or whatever in diners. A lot of people probably aren't familiar with it.
I wasn't until I got here.
Have
so
you had it?
I did have
Changed
it
your life,
yesterday
right?
morning, dude. It was incredible.
So we could certainly get you like a 10-pound log of it from like BJ's up the road, the Costco, and we could send you home with that. Or you know what? I'll send you one.
Yeah,
I will send you one.
Yeah.
And it says right on it, Taylor ham.
yeah.
It does. It does not say pork roll.
I just wanted to, it was a little fun. I thought it was funny.
Oh, it is
Rob
hilarious.
was telling me about it, dude. I was like, he's like, you got to bring it up, man. So I brought it up. Yeah.
But it's good. And that's what this is all about, man.
Right.
It's the busting chops and so on. But man, thank you. Thank you for taking out the podcast that way and talking about how Taylor ham is the correct name for our breakfast
pork
meat.
roll.
And it's not pork roll.
Pork roll from a man,
Blake,
Rob. Rob Meyer.
Blake, you're going to be asked.
Taylor ham pork roll.
You got to leave. You're going to have to leave.
Yeah.
But anyway, Rob, take us out, man. Thank you, Blake. Thanks for being
man.
here.
Appreciate
it, brother.
Yes,
Absolutely. Rob, take us out.
Everybody, this is Rob from National Fire Radio here in the studio tonight with Blake, Jeremy, as always. Blake from Next
See ya.
Rung. We'll see you guys later. And don't forget, nextrung.org. One less cup of coffee, and you can make a difference. $3 a month. Let's do it. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.
And that's why Rob takes us out.